pretty crazy to think that I still have something to talk about, even though no football has been played yet. But here I am with the Week 1 preview. Last week was the draft recap, so a little different from this week. This week I'll be going into more of the Week 1 projections and matchups and, just the various things that we'll see Week 1. There's not a lot of analytics to give because nothing's happened yet. All it is projections and speculations, but let's get into it. Starting off with our 3 primetime games, Thursday, Friday, and Monday. I don't usually go over the Sunday game because the Monday game is a little more impactful because if you have players on Monday, then they are, they can make or break your entire season. You're either dead or alive based off how they perform. So anyway, let's get into the Thursday night. Ravens-Chiefs should be a great season opener. And a lot of people being started across the league in this game. Lamar, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Ravens defense, then Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco, Worthy, Rice, and the Chiefs defense. A lot of Chiefs. They are favored slightly, if you care. And yeah, that's really it to say here. A lot will go down day one, and that should be exciting. And the Friday game, kind of interesting. I think this will be fun. In Brazil, Packers, Eagles. A lot of Packers being played. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. And then actually I was going through everyone's teams, and I think Christian Watson and Wicks are actually being benched right now. I think Watson is on Mitchell's team, and Dontavian Wicks is on JC's team. I could have that wrong. I think I have that right, though. Those are very startable guys, if you ask me. But if all 4 of those receivers get started, one of them has to have a bad game. So someone's due for a bad night. And then Eagles, obviously, Jalen Hurts, Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and the Eagles defense. No one has the Packers defense. I think the Packers are the only team of these 6 teams that I'm going over for these 3 primetime games that the defense is not being started this week. And that probably makes sense because it's the Eagles. But yeah, that's about it here. Should be a good game as well. I'm excited for those 2. And then to end the week, who will make or break, who will go out Week 1? It'll likely be decided from this game. Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams in the Jets D, and then Purdy, CMC, Debo, Ayuk, and the Niners D. A lot of people being started here. Actually, let me real quick. I didn't do this beforehand, but I know I haven't gotten into the projections yet, but it's kind of obvious the 2 teams that are the lowest projected, and those are Ben, because he traded away Saquon, and then Phillip because the auto draft boned him. So who do they have any guys on this night? Yeah, Ben has Purdy. So Ben could very well be relying on Purdy to save his season. And Phillip has Lamar on Thursday. And that's it. He has some other guys on Thursday, Friday. He has no one in this game, and no one Sunday night either. Phillip is done at 4 after the 4:25 slate on Sunday, so that'll be interesting to see. But the Purdy, it really might come down to Purdy. We'll see. This should be a good game as well. These are great. These are 3 great games, if you ask me. I'm excited for all of them. And nothing's here yet. No one scored anything, but this is where everyone's scores will be, and the heads will pile up. And there is actually something to say here with the economy. $1 has been spent, and that was by me. I got Jordan Mason. Ryan dropped him. I don't know why Ryan would drop him, because he is like the handcuff for Christian McCaffrey, and I think that is a guy that has to be rostered. So I do not care if McCaffrey never gets hurt. I think it was worth $1. Ben with 135 because he got 45 for Saquon and then spent 10 to get Thielen, and that's where this 10 went to Basali. So that's, and then, Jack is the guy who spent 45 on Saquon. So if you ask me, I'd rather be in Basali's situation where all I lost was Thielen and I'm at 110 as opposed to losing Saquon and getting Thielen and being at 135. It's a good place to be. If Ben can survive, it's a good place to be. He has, if he wants to, he can outbid anyone. Not that he would bid over $100 on one player. Maybe he would. I don't know. But we'll see what happens after Week 1 and Week 2 waivers run. But that's all that there is to say here, I think. And as mentioned, I won't have the slide on here anymore after this, but the accolades, you'll get the accolades after week 1. And now into a little bit of analytics. There's not much. It's all projections. So here is your sleeper projected points versus your Fantasy Pros projected points, and these are normalized numbers, hence the numbers on the X and Y axes. But what we can see here is Jack's team is dominant, and it makes sense because he traded for Saquon Barkley. So he has, according to the analytics, far and away the best team in the league. And Joey, without doing anything, is the next best team in the league, pretty significantly. And then your next bunch here is kind of the me, David, Mark, Johnny. I guess you could throw Jake into that. Sleeper likes his team a lot more than Fantasy Pros does. And then Mitchell and Matt are in this position where Fantasy Pros likes their teams and Sleeper not so much. Wait, did I say my name here? Why did I say my name? Johnny, David, JC, Jake, and Mark. I'm right here. I'm like right in the middle. I feel like I'm in an okay place. But a lot of people in the red here. Philip, surprisingly, you see he's up here on the y-axis. Fantasy Pros actually doesn't hate Philip's team, and Sleeper still has him as the second worst, just above Ben. And this is Huff and James. Yeah. Huff and James. Ryan's not in a great spot either. Cooper, Potter, Fleming, me are all kind of in this mid area. Do with this as you please. It's all projections. It's week 1. No one knows anything. But Ben, in theory, is in a pretty bad spot. And there's not too much to pull from this because this is your y-axis is your budget or your fab, so almost everyone is at 100, so everyone's right in that middle line, except Jack, as you can see here. Oh, and then the x-axis is your position strength according to Fantasy Pros, your average position strength across all your positions. Johnny actually has the highest position strength across all positions, which is interesting. He has a lot of rookies, and that was what I knocked him for in the draft, but the analytics likes his team. Jack is next, and then you got Matt and Mitchell here, and then David and me. And then Ben, obviously, all the way back here because he lost Barkley and gained a lot of fab, so top left. I think, generally speaking, how this chart should look throughout the year is kind of a rough scatter plot of like a top left to bottom right line, because if you have weaker players, you probably have a lot of fab, usually because you've traded away players to get fab, so you become less strong, but you gain fab, and then as you spend fab, you get players, and you go down here. So it's hard to be up here. Last year, obviously, it happens, because some people hit big on some guy and they didn't spend much on them on waivers, and then they'll have a really strong team and they haven't even spent much and they'll be up here. So that's obviously a good place to be. And then if you spent a lot of money and your players are still bad, it's bad to be down here. So this graph, I think, is pretty telling out of all the graphs as the season goes on, but this is where it is now. And getting into everyone's team, and I'm going through them in order of where Sleeper has you projected. So Jack is the Sleeper projected best team this week at a 107.6. Obviously, he acquired Saquon for $45. I think that should make him pretty safe for a couple weeks. I don't care if the analytics doesn't love his receivers. I think he's pretty much great everywhere else. I'm a big fan of Brees this year. So the addition of Saquon was pretty huge, if you ask me. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I know I was kind of hard on him after the draft. I think I put him on a D, the D tier. I mean, obviously the addition of Saquon changes that, but that doesn't have to do with his draft grade. But I do love Brees. I'm a fan of Brees. I think I was overreacting to my the Anthony Richardson news that had just occurred. I think he should be fine, probably. But I think that was one of my big reasons I was knocking him in the first place. So, and you'll see these graphs on each of your slides every week. This is your position strength kind of web chart. The blue being your starters and the brown being your bench. So this would tell us that he is strong everywhere, decent or strong everywhere except for wide receiver. He's got some bench players, it seems like, a wide receiver. So he's got some depth, but his starters aren't great with Diggs, and I believe that is Jaden Reed. Let me look. I got this. No, Romeo Dobbs. Romeo Dobbs. So, yeah, maybe not the best starting duo of receivers, but everywhere else he's fine. And Joey coming in at 2. The analytics likes his team. Having McCaffrey helps. Mixon as his RB2. Oh, and right here, I should have said on the last slide, these are your top 3 projected scorers this week. Every week going forward, it'll be your top 3 actual scorers from the previous week. But anyway, he has Caleb Williams, which I think is a hit or a miss. We'll see. Rashee Rice, Keenan Allen, they're below average for a wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 for sure. But Mark Andrews should kind of help him out big time, and the Niners D. Eckler and Mike Williams, if you ask me, are both risks at the flex, but we'll see. So there is some risk here. I won't say even as the second highest projected scorer, the only other person projected above 100. I still think there's some risk here. And Jake coming in as the third projected team. I think he's got a good amount of wide receiver firepower with A.J. Brown, Zay Flowers, Curtis Samuel, and I had it. Who's this guy? I'll start to learn people's faces by the end. That's Jerry Jeudy. Okay, the headband's throwing me off. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy is an interesting guy. We'll see what he does on the Browns. But I think he's pretty solid everywhere else. His running backs are around average, maybe a little below average, but I think he's fine to get through week 1 here. Projected at about 98 points. JC, the team that I was raving about, one of the teams I was raving about after the draft, and I'm still on that boat. He's got good running backs. He's got good receivers. The only place he's a little weak is tight end with Cole Kmet, but I think he's got good flex plays. Analytics has him as Shakir as the flex 14 and Brandon Cooks as the flex 2, number 10. So, I don't know. I like these guys. And Burrow, obviously, should be a good floor play. I think he's got one of the most well-rounded teams here outside of tight end. And I think he's set up for a good season starting off here. And David, the other team I had in the S tier along with JC after the draft. That was solely based off draft grade. I still like this team. I think he might lose because he has Tua at quarterback. Just kidding. This team is solid. Wide receivers on the slightly weaker side, but I think these 4 guys here, Waddle, Dell, the guy I couldn't remember his name last week, and now I'm forgetting it again, Jacoby Myers, and Demario Douglas. I mean, those should be okay. We'll see what Demario Douglas does and what the Patriots do with their receiving core. I don't know who's going to get the bulk there, but David seems to like Demario Douglas. And I like the Steelers' defense, so there's a lot to like here. Jonathan Taylor and Pacheco looks like analytics has is one of the strongest probably duos of running backs in the league. So should be fine. Week 1, projected 97, roughly. And Mark's team, another person who has made some moves. I forgot to update your total fab here at the bottom to 110. You are at 110, not 100. But ultimately, he's got a pretty solid team. I think his top guys like ETN and Jamar Chase should carry, but I think there is some boom bust potential here. Kittle's a guy that we've seen him have like 1-point games because the Niners just don't use him as a receiver that game. They use him to block, so there is risk there, but Kittle should be great. Singletary is also a guy I feel like could just put up, he could put up 80 yards and a touchdown, and that's great from your flex, or he'll put up 20 yards because the Giants suck. And I believe this is Darnell Mooney, who is to be seen what the Falcons do with him, but he seems to be the wide receiver 2 there. And I believe this is Brian Robinson. I could be completely butchering these guys, so I'm going to check real quick. That is Brian Robinson. Okay. So he's got some okay guys here. Baker should be fine. I don't think anyone's going to lose this week from their quarterback unless we have an absolutely abysmal performance or one of them gets hurt. But he did get 10 fab from Thielen, which I do like. So I think Mark's in a good spot. With a little bit of risk from those boom-bust players. Johnny, the team that drafted all the rookies. So the question is, will they pan out? The analytics really likes this team with Amon-Ra, Malik, Neighbors. That's Shaheed, and this is Calvin Ridley. So that's a really solid core of receivers. Neighbors could bust if the Giants suck, which they do. But he's got solid running backs. He's got Jaden Daniels, so rookie quarterback should be good. I don't think he should be a bust, but there's always that risk with starting a rookie quarterback week 1. And then this is... Oh my gosh, who is that? Who is that guy? Oh, it's Brock Bowers. Okay, so good thing. It's not like I've seen his face that many times. Brock Bowers. Another rookie. So there's some boom-bust potential with all the rookies, but ultimately I think he's got some good players. And look at this. The Bengals defense. These are, by the way, week 1 projected, based off week 1 projections. So the Bengals playing the Patriots really likes that. The analytics really likes that. So, hey, look at that. I really wanted the Bengals defense. He picked them like 2 or 3 picks before me in like the last round of the draft. And that was who I was eyeing to take based on their week 1 matchup. So that's a bummer. But they played the Chiefs week 2, so then they're kind of useless again. I don't know if anyone's going to risk starting them against the Chiefs, but just wanted to point that out, Look at that. 1. The best projected defense week 1. And now my team. I think, obviously, I went heavy at wide receiver, and I waited a long time to take quarterback, tight end. But what I've ended up with at quarterback and tight end is the Stafford-Parkinson stack. We'll see how that works out. I think Parkinson has the potential to be really good this year because Stafford and the Rams in the past have gone heavy at using tight ends before, like with Higbee, and Higbee's hurt, so that's why Parkinson's in. So we'll see. Parkinson could fill right in and get 8 catches and be great, but we'll see. I'm no longer projected the worst tight end in the league, which I was to start the season. I think it's we'll get to it. I think I know who it is, but I don't want to spoil it. Who's projected to be the 18th tight end out of all the starters across the league. But yeah, I think my wide receivers can carry me. Jefferson, Pittman, Godwin, and dude, this is my team. Who is this guy? Wait, why does it? Who does it have? Is that Chase Brown? Oh, that's Chase Brown. He kind of looked white here, but Chase Brown is, I guess he's mixed. I don't know. I have Brian Thomas in here, not Chase Brown. But this is just what it projects to be my best players, and it throws them in here. These aren't necessarily, they're usually not your actual starters. But enough rambling. I think my team's fine. I got Jordan Mason on my bench now, kind of like that. And the Raiders defense could be an interesting play. They have the Chargers week 1, so we'll see what the Chargers can do with the new Harbaugh coaching staff. Fleming went Josh Allen first round, as we remember, and he stacked it with Kincaid, so that is something. Could be good, could be bad. It's probably good. And he's got solid receivers, I think, and where he's weak is at running back, with his running backs being Jalen Warren and Tyjae Spears, both who are like RB1Bs. Jalen Warren, we'll see. I think they're both like splitting, but slightly less than half. I think they're both slightly less than half of the share in their respective running back committees. And then honestly, these guys at flex, I think that's Schultz as the second flex, and I do not know who this first one is off the picture. So let's look, and it might not even be who he's actually starting. That's DeMarcus Robinson, who's on the Rams, who he kind of caught fire late last year, so maybe that's a good play, but the analytics does not like that much. 18th best flex 1. That's all there is to say there, I think. And Mitchell, I think this is a team with a good floor. I liked his team after the draft. And I also think he has a really solid wide receiver room with Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, and Christian Watson. This is Xavier Leggett, I believe, who I think it's to be seen if they use him. I think there's other guys on that offense they're going to use first before him. But I think he could develop as the season goes on, but he's a risk for now. Kelsey, obviously, is a good play. We'll see if we see any regression from him this year, but should be safe. And running backs are solid. Montgomery and Gus Edwards, I think those are touchdown guys. And Goff is Goff. Goff's a solid play. So ultimately, I think he has a solid floor here, and his wide receivers can be pretty solid. Could pop off as well. So solid team coming in at the 10th. Ryan coming in at the 11th projected team. By the way, now I kind of stopped saying the numbers. Now we're down into about 93. We started at, I think, 107 with Jack, 102 with Joey, and everyone else being in the high mid-90s. But Ryan, what's there to say here? I mean, his running backs I think are solid. Kyron and Zamir White, and then Zach Moss in the flex. Those should be good floor guys. And the one question is, will Josh Downs play? I think it's leaning no. which I think Ryan is using the auto sub feature. When I looked at his team, he's using the auto sub feature. So if Downs does play, he's going to be right here. If he does not play, then he has Conklin subbing in, and Conklin in theory provides maybe a little bit of a floor of getting a couple catches at least with Rodgers throwing to him. We never got to see what Conklin could look like with Rodgers throwing to him, and maybe it'll be good. Ryan's just a little weak at wide receiver, I would say. Debo and Palmer are his guys here. But he picked up Noah Brown and Gesicki. He wanted to end me dropping and picking up Gesicki. Or he actually believes that Gesicki's going to be good. One or the other. Either way, he's got him now. And I think Ryan now has two, hence his name change, has two of the Commanders' wide receivers that are not Terry McLaurin. I think it's, Diami Brown and Noah Brown. So the Brown bros on the Commanders wide receiver room. We'll see which guy kind of emerges as the wide receiver 2 there. Could also be Luke McCaffrey, who I don't think he has, unless I have it wrong, and McCaffrey's the other guy he has. Hold on. No, it's Diami Brown. Okay, cool. Someone else has Luke McCaffrey. On to Potter's team, projected to be the 12th. He's very dominant at wide receiver. This is probably the best group of wide receivers in the league. CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Ayuk, Jaden Reed, but then you see a lot of red on his team. I don't know what the hate is on Trevor Lawrence here. I think he should be fine, but then his running backs are a little weak with Pollard and Zeke. Pollard being the RB1A to Tyjae Spears should get a decent amount of work, and Zeke we'll see with Dowdle. I don't know. That might be a perfect split, or we'll just have to wait and see week 1, but 2 running backs that aren't getting a full workload. And then, here we go. Here's the 18th tight end, Ben Sinnott. I think it is Sinnott. Is the pronunciation. I'll figure that out, but I think that's it. So he is now, I think the report was that Zach Ertz might be getting like the starting workload. We'll see. I mean, if not, then he should be fine. But in the Giants defense, I don't like the Giants defense, but sure. We'll keep it moving. On to Matt's team. I think, wide receiver should carry here. Puka, I didn't love the price on Puka and where you had to draft him, but he should be fine. Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, and then Ladd McConkey. So there's a lot of upside here in the flex at wide receiver. But my question marks are Taysom Hill. I think you can see him bust big time, or he'll throw a touchdown and catch a touchdown and run a touchdown, and then you have 20 points from your flex, or from your tight end. And then Blake Corum, I think it sounds like he's going to get used in the offense behind Kyron, but to what extent, we'll have to see. Aaron Jones is all right. Dak's all right. I don't get that either. Why is Dak 15 and Trevor Lawrence 14? Like, why are these guys? I mean, these are week 1 based, so I guess those are based on matchups. So hold up. Well, Trevor Lawrence plays Miami. That's not a bad matchup. And then for Matt, Dak plays Cleveland. That's not a bad matchup either. Okay, I don't get it, but sure. Like I said, across the board, I think everyone's quarterbacks are going to be fine. It's more of the rest of the team that I'm analyzing. James, a team that after the draft I said he had a lot of like high risk, high reward guys in like early, like his first 7 picks are all boom bust guys potentially. I like McBride at tight end. He has both Seahawks receivers behind DK at his flexes, so JSN and Tyler Lockett. That could be risky, could work out, we'll see. Olave and T. Higgins are decent as his first 2 guys, and I think Love could pop off this year. Derrick Henry, now on the Ravens, could also pop off, and this is J.K. Dobbins. That's probably the worst part of his team, is his RB2. But he's got some okay guys here. I think this is a solid enough team. I mean, he's projected 14th, so he's on the lower end, probably because of the RB2 here. But yeah, solid enough. Should get him by week 1. And Huff's team. Really all there is to say here, and it has to do with the fact that he had a later pick in the draft. I think, was he not the 18th pick? So he has no, like, big studs, if you ask me, like no green bars here, as you could say. Achane, James Conner, Drake London, Deontay Johnson. This is Goddard, Shakir, and Charbonnet. Yeah, so finally nailed a team based off their faces. And Kyler. I think Kyler could boom this year, and that's where this team could be really good. But other than that, these are just kind of okay guys. Some guys with decent floors, I would say. But no like glaring huge weakness, I would say, either, which is a good thing to have. So that's where Huff's team's at. Projected 15th at 92 points. And now projected at 16th, also at 92 points, is Cooper's team. I think Mahomes and Bijan should give him a lot of points week in and week out. But it's after that I'm concerned. I do like Evan Ingram, kind of a PPR machine, gets a lot of catches. But Hollywood Brown is doubtful. I don't think he's playing week 1, potentially not even week 2. So actually, these are not his flexes. His real flexes are Jalen Tolbert for the Cowboys, their wide receiver 3, I believe, behind Brandon Cooks, and Yosevich for the Bengals, who I am high on as like a sleeper guy that I told Ryan, or no, I made a bet with someone who's not in the league that Yosevich will have 6 touchdowns this year or more, which is a hot take because he's like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, depending on where Burton starts getting involved. But I think to start the season, he is the wide receiver 3 after Jamar and T. Higgins, so I think that opens the door for a lot of opportunities. Tyler Boyd's been okay in the past as the wide receiver 3. So not a bad play. This is Ty Chandler, who he's moved to his bench, and what is this, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton? Some okay guys. I don't like Najee Harris, but that's whatever. So yeah, Jalen Tolbert. This might be the only undrafted like player that someone's starting week 1. I might be wrong about that, but he just picked him up for $0 and is throwing him right into his starting lineup. So we'll see how that goes. Could be a good move. Or not, or it couldn't be. But I heard good things about Jalen Tolbert from camp. But camp, who knows what to believe what you hear stuff from camp. So, Philip, the auto draft team. So his RBs still suck. This is Algier, and this is Ray Davis, I think, rookie. So not a lot of good things to say there, but honestly, I think he has a lot of upside everywhere else on his team. Okay, except for Commanders defense. I'm not a fan of that either. But Tyreek Hill, Nico Collins should be great. And then 2 rookies, Xavier Worthy and Rome Odunze. So those rookies can pan out, and then you get great value for them in the draft. So he could have 4 really solid receivers here. I think I said Potter has the best receiving room in the league. If both these guys are like immediate studs, then this could be the best receiver room in the league from an auto draft. I think Musgrave is a fine tight end, and Lamar should be good at QB, getting him those rushing points. So I think Phil is safer than we'd give him credit for. Just the running backs are obviously the weak point. Okay. And last but not least, Ben fell below Phillip in projections after he traded away Barkley, which makes sense. He drafted a lot of running backs, so it's not like his running backs are bad. His receivers are just bad because he drafted heavy at running back. So his running backs are still Rashad White, Kenneth Walker, Raheem Mostert. But receivers, George Pickens, Gabe Davis, and then he traded to get Thielen. He needed like another flex guy to start week 1, so that's what his goal was there, with trading for Thielen. Otten at tight end, Purdy at quarterback. I mean, the 18th, but it's Purdy. He's going to be fine. He'll get you points. Like I said, quarterbacks, I don't think any of these projections for quarterback really matter week 1. All the quarterbacks have a decent chance to do good. And I guess that's really it to say. He has Fab, so if he can survive, then he could be really good in the long run. But week 1, he's definitely on the riskier side, the more dangerous side week 1. But we've seen crazier things. It would not be crazy. I mean, it's not crazy at all if he survives. Week 1 is a crapshoot, and we could see one of like the top 5 teams go out based on projections. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And now here is my way too early power rankings, somewhat based off of the draft tiering, but then I obviously made adjustments based off of what's happened since then, like the trade with Barkley. And now we're really looking at week 1 matchups and kind of just season matchups as opposed to just like how well I think people drafted, because that's different from how you'll actually do during the season in a weird way. But JC and David, my S tier drafts, are still up there, 1 and 2. I think Mark and Mitchell have solid teams. Jake, solid. Jack bumps his way up. I was going to have him a lot lower, probably on this 3rd column, not going to lie. Maybe that's too weak. Probably somewhere in this middle column. Even though I didn't like his draft, his team is still like looking solid for week 1 and the near future. But the addition of Barkley makes him solid. And these power rankings do include, like, take into consideration Fab. So Jack's team really should be higher, but I'm bumping him down because he's already lower on Fab. That didn't hurt him last year. He still won the league when he had very low Fab early on. So, and he's sticking to that strategy. But hence why I have him at 6. And without going like person by person, I have Ben at 14 because that's kind of the other interesting piece where his team is not by far, but definitely down there in the bottom 2 of the league with Phillip. But having that Fab gives him, more security going forward if he survives. So Ben, it wouldn't be right to put him at 18 because then if he survives and picks up guys off waivers, then he immediately bumps up into like a mid-team probably at least. So right in between mid and bad, I have him at 14. Middle of the pack, Potter, Huff, me, Ryan, Joey, Johnny. Analytics likes Johnny's team a lot. I'm not sold on other rookies, so we'll see. And I do have Phillip at last. Like I said, he has a lot of potential to bump up from last, but he needs to get some running backs in there after week 1. And we need to see what happens with those rookie wide receivers, Odunze and Worthy. But I have Fleming at 13. I would say Ben 14. James 15. Cooper 16. Matt 17. Cooper and Matt are... I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of the teams. I mean, a lot can shift after 1 week, but right now I have them towards the bottom here with Phillip. But that is it on the week 1 rankings. Now, one last thing. If you've stuck around this long, I'm going to continue. Last year, after I got eliminated, I started doing my predictions to get eliminated every week. But even I thought it would be a good thing to continue doing, even though I'm still alive. So, my prediction, my hot take for who to get eliminated week 1. And this is a hot take, so I'm not going to, not to spoil it, but I'm not going to do one of the obvious ones. I need to pull someone who I think weirdly has some odd potential to get eliminated this week that's outside of the norm, outside of the usual expected suspects. And that is Jack Potter. Hot take, I know, he has great receivers. And I've gone back and forth on whether or not I should give my reason on why I think there's some potential for things to go wrong this week for Jack Potter. Not Jack, it's 2 Jacks, okay? Potter. And I decided I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Because if I say something and he maybe agrees with it and then makes a roster change, makes a move, I don't want to impact what he's going to do based off what I say. I'm just going to say he's my prediction, my hot take prediction. The out of the norm prediction to get eliminated this week. I have him at 7 on the power rankings, and I think he's somewhere around the middle of the pack in terms of projected points this week. So, just my hot take. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. And that concludes it. I think I, for once, didn't talk too much. 30 minutes, not too bad. But I'm really excited for the season. So, good luck to everybody, and don't get eliminated as normal. And I will see you guys next week for the week 2 review.